I was raising my glass at my sister Tessa's 35th birthday when my father stepped forward, grabbed the microphone, and announced to the entire room, Aria will be gifting her $2.7 million penthouse to Tessa. It's only fair. 40 guests turned to look at me. I said one word, no. The music didn't even have time to fade before he slapped me across the face. My earring hit the floor. I picked it up, steadied myself, and whispered, "Happy birthday, Tessa," as I walked out. People always assume I grew up privileged because I became a CTO at 32 and bought a penthouse before most of my friends even qualified for their first mortgage. But privilege isn't the same as peace. And in my childhood home, peace belonged only to one person, my older sister, Tessa. I was the self-sufficient one from the moment I could tie my shoes. Tessa, meanwhile, was treated like a delicate masterpiece no one was allowed to criticize. She didn't have chores. She didn't have expectations. She had dreams, apparently, grand ones, though no one ever seemed able to explain what they were. For 8 years, she floated through life without a job, without a plan, and somehow without consequences. My parents called her an undiscovered artistic genius. I called her what she really was, spectacularly unemployed. While Tessa slept until noon and declared herself emotionally drained, I worked. I got my first internship at 17. Graduated early. Started climbing the tech ladder while still eating ramen to save money. Every milestone I achieved made my family smile, not with pride, but with relief. Because the more I succeeded, the more they expected. By 23, after getting my first major promotion, I realized I needed distance from the chaos. I moved out, rented a cheap studio, and worked like my life depended on it. In a way, it did. My career became the shield I used to keep my family's dysfunction from swallowing me whole. Eventually, after years of 70-hour weeks, failed relationships, and relentless effort, I bought my penthouse. The first thing I ever owned that felt entirely mine. It was supposed to be my safe place. But to my family, it was simply a resource waiting to be redistributed. My father, Gregory, always preached the same line, siblings share everything. What he meant was, I share, and Tessa receives. The pattern was embarrassingly predictable. When Tessa fell while being overwhelmed by her emotions, I paid her emergency room bill. When she totaled Mom's car because she was distracted by inspiration, I bought her a new one because, as Mom put it, she'll never find a job without transportation. When she sold the antique jewelry I bought for Grandma years ago, claiming she was decluttering, I swallowed my anger because I didn't want to upset anyone. Every act of generosity I gave vanished into a black hole of entitlement. No gratitude. No acknowledgement. Only expectation. My success wasn't celebrated. It was harvested. If I got a bonus, my mom hinted that Tessa needed help paying rent. If I got promoted, my dad asked whether I could help out with the family investment property. If I took a vacation, I was told it must be nice to have the luxury while Tessa struggled. Struggled with what? Her biggest task each day was deciding what affirmations to write in her journal. But the worst part wasn't the money. It was how they made me feel about giving it. The familiar gaslighting scripts still echo in my head. Con nenbid on kai ko gia dindachi se. You're lucky to have someone to give to. Con ich ky jong tin ben na noi. Selfishness runs in your blood. Every time I tried to say no, I was the villain. Every boundary I set was labeled cold or ungrateful. And slowly, I learned to stop expecting anything from them: approval, understanding, fairness. I only expected the next demand. Looking back, I can see how the resentment built inside me like sediment. Layer after layer of swallowed frustration, unreturned favors, and forced responsibility. And under all of it, something darker, the sinking feeling that in my own family, I existed only as utility. So when my father slapped me at that birthday party, when his hand connected with my face under those warm lights, with 40 witnesses staring in stunned silence, it wasn't the pain that broke me. It was the realization that they never saw me as a daughter. Just a resource. A tool. A walking penthouse deed waiting to be reassigned to the family favorite. And as I walked out of that room, clutching my fallen earring, one truth finally settled with absolute clarity. The slap wasn't the betrayal. It was the confirmation. The moment I understood that whatever bond I'd been holding on to all these years had already been broken. And I wasn't going to spend one more day pretending I belonged to a family that never saw me as anything but an asset. When I stormed out of the party, I thought I'd never walk back into that house again. But after an hour of pacing outside in my car, face still burning from the slap, earring clenched in my hand, I realized my laptop and work bag were still inside. The universe really does have a sense of humor. When I stepped back into the house, the music was off. The guests had left. And my family, my parents and Tessa, were calmly wiping counters and gathering plates like nothing had happened. As if humiliating me in front of 40 people had been a minor hiccup in the evening, a spilled drink they'd already cleaned. My father looked up first. Instead of guilt, anger flashed across his face. "Con lamchi con mat," he snapped. "You embarrassed your sister." I stared at him, stunned. I embarrassed her? You slapped me. Tessa was perched on the couch, eyes red, mascara smudged perfectly for maximum sympathy. "You ruined my birthday, Aria," she whimpered. "You're so successful now that you think you're above family." My jaw tightened. This has nothing to do with success. This is about boundaries. Mom chimed in, her voice sharp and disappointed. A good sister would help her sibling in need. Tessa's been struggling. You don't need that penthouse. And she does? I asked. Yes. Tessa burst out. You have everything, Aria. Everything. I don't have anything. You have Mom and Dad, I said quietly. You've always had them. She flinched like I'd slapped her. Wow. So now I'm the spoiled one? You are, I said simply. Dad stepped closer, pointing at me. We raised you. You owe us. You owe this family. There it was, the old script. The one I'd heard my entire childhood. Gratitude is obedience. Success is property. Everything you earn belongs to the family because we existed before you. I felt something inside me cool, steady. The penthouse, I said clearly, is mine. I bought it. I earned it. And no one, gets to demand it. Mom scoffed. Con can no, Tessa can han. I felt my anger sharpen into something surgical. Needing something doesn't give you the right to take it. Dad jabbed a finger toward my chest. Everything you have is because of us. We gave you opportunities. We sacrificed. No, I interrupted. You sacrificed nothing. I worked for everything I have. You didn't put me through school. You didn't pay a single bill in my adult life. In fact, I exhaled shakily. I've paid thousands for Tessa. Medical bills, rent, her car. You've asked me for money more times than I can count. Mom's eyes narrowed. So what? You think listing receipts makes you better than us? No, I said softly. Just tired. Tessa threw herself back dramatically. So you're cutting us off? After everything we've given you emotionally? Emotionally? I repeated. You've criticized every decision I've ever made. You've invalidated every accomplishment. You've used me, financially and emotionally. All while worshipping Tessa as if she's incapable of doing anything wrong. Tessa stood, pointing at me like a prosecutor. You're ungrateful. Ungrateful and selfish. I blinked. Selfish? I've spent my entire life giving. And all of you have spent your entire lives taking. Dad's voice rose. Don't raise your voice at your mother. I'm not raising it, I said calmly. That's the difference between us. You shout. You slap. You demand. I'm done doing any of it. There was a long, heavy silence. Then I said the sentence that ended something between us, maybe permanently. I'm done paying to be mistreated. The room froze. Mom's mouth dropped open. Tessa's eyes widened. Dad took a step back like I'd hit him. What did you say? Mom whispered. I said I'm done. No more money. No more bailouts. No more emotional ransom disguised as help your sister or respect your father. I'm finished. Tessa let out a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. You can't abandon us. We're family. No, I said. Family doesn't treat me like this. Mom hissed, if you walk out now, don't come back. Good, I replied. Because I'm not coming back. For the first time in my life, their disapproval didn't crush me. It freed me. I turned, grabbed my bag, and walked out. No one followed. No one said sorry. No one tried to stop me. And for once, I didn't wait for them to. Because the moment I stepped out that door, I realized. They had never controlled me. I had just never chosen myself. Until now. I didn't go to a friend's house that night. I didn't go to a hotel. My hands were still shaking when I reached the lobby of my penthouse, and there was only one person I wanted to call. Not my parents. Not Tessa. Not anyone who believed I owed them something. I called the only person who had ever consistently stood on my side. My grandmother, Evelyn. Her voice on the phone was steady, sharp. Aria? What happened? I told her everything. Not the softened, edited version I'd given in the past. I told her about the slap. The penthouse demand. The way they called me ungrateful, entitled. The way they twisted every boundary I set into a crime. She didn't interrupt once. 30 minutes later, she was standing at my door, hair pinned neatly, coat over her shoulders, eyes blazing with a fury I recognized instantly. Not at me. For me. I made tea while she sat at the dining table, unmoving, letting the silence stretch. Finally she said, I warned them. I looked up. Warned them about what? That if they continued treating you like the family workhorse, there would be consequences. She folded her hands. They chose their favorite, Aria. Now I choose mine. It took a second for her words to sink in. Grandma. I didn't tell you all this to make you take sides. I'm not taking sides, she corrected calmly. I'm acknowledging reality. She tapped the table with one finger. Show me everything. I hesitated. She raised one eyebrow, the eyebrow that meant don't argue. So I opened my laptop. I showed her the transfers I'd made over the years. The receipts for Tessa's medical bills. The down payment for her car. The deposits for her art programs. The money I loaned my parents that never returned. Every small financial patch I'd glued onto their lives to stop their problems from spilling into mine. Evelyn studied every line with the precision of a surgeon. She asked pointed questions, requested dates, clarified amounts. When she finished, she leaned back in the chair and exhaled slowly. Aria, she said, you've been supporting 3 adults for nearly a decade. I know, I whispered. I didn't know how to stop. That's because you thought helping them meant they'd eventually treat you with respect. But entitlement isn't cured by generosity. It's fed by it. I swallowed hard. I just wanted a family that didn't resent me for succeeding. She placed her hand on mine, steady and warm. You never had that. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out a leather folder. She opened it, revealing documents I'd never seen before, investment statements, trust details, signed directives. Do you know what this is? She asked. I shook my head. This is the McKenna family portfolio. Investments. Properties. Shares. Assets worth several tens of millions. And I control all of it. My breath caught. She closed the folder gently. If they want to treat you like nothing, she said, eyes flashing, then I will make sure they get nothing. Grandma. She squeezed my hand. This isn't revenge. This is correction. I felt something shift inside me. The years of loneliness I hadn't admitted, even to myself, quietly loosened. For the first time in my life, I realized I wasn't fighting alone. And my family, the people who thought they could humiliate me and walk away untouched, were about to learn what consequences actually looked like. Because I finally had clarity. And I finally had someone powerful standing beside me. Evelyn didn't wait weeks, or even days. She waited exactly 12 hours. By sunrise, she called Gregory and Elaine herself, instructing them to be home at noon for a mandatory family meeting. Her tone didn't leave room for negotiation. I went with her, though part of me still couldn't believe any of this was happening. I had spent my whole life feeling like the outsider, and now here I was, standing beside the most powerful woman in our family. When we walked into my parents' house, the tension felt thick enough to chew. Gregory sat rigid on the couch, Elaine wringing her hands, and Tessa pacing like a trapped animal. None of them looked at me, but all of them looked terrified of Evelyn. My grandmother didn't bother sitting. She placed a thick envelope on the coffee table and spoke with a calm that somehow made everything more frightening. I will keep this brief, she said. What happened at Tessa's birthday was an embarrassment, not to you, she said, looking at me, but to this entire family name. Gregory scoffed under his breath. Mom, she's exaggerating. Evelyn lifted one finger, and he fell silent instantly. I saw the video, she said. The entire city saw it. My son, the man I raised, slapping his daughter in a room full of people. And then justifying it. Elaine burst into tears. We didn't know someone was recording. That is precisely the problem, Evelyn said coldly. You didn't care that you slapped her. You cared that people saw it. Tessa crossed her arms. So what? She embarrassed me by refusing her penthouse. She made the night about herself. Evelyn turned to her slowly. Tessa, your sister has paid your bills, your hospital fees, your rent, your car, and your emergencies for years. She financed your life while you sat home waiting to be applauded. Tessa's mouth opened, then closed like a gasping fish. Evelyn continued. I warned you both. I told you that the way you treated Aria would have consequences. You chose to ignore me. Now you live with the result. Gregory slammed his hand on the table. We are her parents. We deserve respect. You deserve exactly what you've earned, Evelyn said, voice steady. And so does she. With that, she opened the envelope and removed a stack of legal documents. This, she said, is my updated will. Elaine went pale. Gregory leaned forward as if trying to snatch it from her hands. Evelyn read aloud. I, Evelyn Margaret McKenna, hereby leave the entirety of my estate, investments, properties, and holdings to my granddaughter, Aria Elaine McKenna. Silence. Then. What? Tessa shrieked. That's not fair. I'm the oldest. I should inherit. You should inherit? Evelyn repeated. Based on what? Your work ethic? Your contribution? Your character? Tessa shook with rage. She's taking everything from me. No, Evelyn said. She is receiving what I choose to give. You are receiving what you have earned, nothing. Elaine sobbed harder. Gregory's face drained of color. Evelyn wasn't finished. She added, and for the record, I am not doing this because of the Penthouse incident. I am doing this because of a lifetime of mistreatment. You used her as a wallet. You dismissed her achievements. You enabled Tessa to remain a dependent adult. That ends today. I felt my breath catch, because for the first time, someone was saying everything I had never dared to say out loud. Evelyn handed me a pen. It's time. She signed the transfer documents first, deliberate, graceful strokes, and slid them toward me to initial. Gregory jumped to his feet. You can't do this. I am your son. You were, she corrected. And you abused the daughter I love. Consider this severed. I initialed the last page with a hand that didn't shake. Not anymore. Tessa screamed, Aria, you ruined everything. My fiancé left because of you. My life is falling apart. I stood, looking directly at her. I didn't ruin your life. I just stopped letting you drain mine. Her face twisted, but she had no answer. Evelyn gathered her things, lifted her chin, and said, We're done here. As we walked out of the house, the same house where I once begged for scraps of approval, I felt their eyes burning into my back. Not in control. Not victorious. Powerless. For the first time in my life, the power wasn't theirs. It was mine. And I walked out the door beside the only person who had ever seen my worth. Evelyn didn't look back. And neither did I. The slap video spread faster than I expected. By the next morning, it was everywhere: Twitter, TikTok, Instagram Reels, even on professional forums where my colleagues quietly sent messages that said things like proud of you and you didn't deserve that. For the first time in my life, the public saw what I had spent years swallowing in silence. And instead of being humiliated, I felt vindicated. The backlash hit my family hard. Tessa's engagement evaporated overnight. Her fiancé's parents issued a formal statement distancing their family from violent and financially manipulative behavior. She tried posting emotional videos to gain sympathy, but the comments were brutal. Gregory took the worst blow. A major partner pulled out of his firm, citing ethical concerns, and another demanded he step down before they reconsidered their contract. The lawsuit from the video only deepened the damage. My mother stayed mostly silent, which was the closest thing to accountability she'd ever shown. As for me, I didn't fight. I didn't gloat. I didn't chase closure. I packed. Evelyn insisted we leave town together. Fresh air works better when you aren't breathing in their problems, she said, so we moved to a coastal city a few hours away. I bought a small, bright house with a balcony that faced the ocean. Evelyn bought the one next door, claiming she needed to keep an eye on her favorite grandchild. I kept my job. CTO was still who I was, but I shifted my energy. I began building something new, a foundation for women dealing with financial and emotional abuse inside their own families. I wanted to give them the support I never had. One evening, after settling into the new house, I opened my journal and wrote, "Freedom isn't given. It's claimed. And for the first time, the words didn't feel aspirational. They felt true. That night, I stepped onto the balcony. The sun was lowering itself into the water, the air warm and gentle, the horizon glowing soft gold. I felt calm, deep, steady calm, something I hadn't known since childhood. No demands. No guilt. No obligations disguised as love. Just me. Alive. Whole. Finally free. If there is one thing my story has taught me, it's this. Family doesn't give you the right to steal someone's life. And love, real love, has nothing to do with entitlement. It has everything to do with respect. For years, I thought being the strong one meant carrying everyone else's weight without complaint. I thought boundaries were something to apologize for, something that made me difficult or ungrateful. But the truth is simpler and harder. If you've ever been punished for having boundaries, remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is leave. Sometimes walking away is the only way you'll ever be able to breathe again. And if any part of my story felt familiar, if it echoed something in your own life, I want to hear from you. Share your experience below. And subscribe for more stories of quiet revenge, emotional justice, and family truth. You're not alone.